The drill. If you've seen my videos before, again, I haven't even showed this process, but I do wrap myself in saran wrap and then wrap myself in duct tape to get my shape, my form, my pattern. So that's pretty much what I did. I wrapped my entire from right here to like mid-thigh in saran wrap and duct tape. I made sure I have like a tank top on and some biker shorts or whatever so that my skin is not like just completely exposed. However, I did put on, usually you don't want to have too much of a padded bra because you want something to be exact. I had on my most padded bra that I can find, and then I took a tank top and I stuffed it inside the bra because I did want to give off that like popcorn falling out of the bucket type of vibe, and I needed some more volume here for the actual outside dress so that when I made my inner top that there was still room for it to like stay in place and it wasn't too tight. So that is what I did. With a Sharpie, I marked the dress at or half an inch above the bust apex so my outer layer could sit lower than my inner layer, aka the popcorn layer, and that it could be visible. These are the panels I marked with Sharpie, making sure I number them, and I marked my waist and my hip line. In total, it was 8 panels, 2 in the front and 2 for the back. And of course, you need to account for the other side of your body. So in total, it would have been 8. Now, if your body is quite symmetrical, then you can just use one side of your body and mirror it to the other side. However, since I used to wear my backpack on one side of the kid, I have scoliosis, thus my body not so symmetrical, so I did mark all the panels going around my entire body. Anyway, welcome to the math section of this video, where I show you all the possibly foolish and unnecessary math that I used for this pattern. Although it ended up working out in the end, there is definitely a better way. Alright, I knew I wanted this dress to have exaggerated hips, like one of those dome-shaped umbrellas. So I took a measuring tape and I measured how far from my hips I would like the dress to come out. 6 inches seemed to be my sweet spot, so I stuck with that. But whatever we do to one side, you know what you gotta do to the other side. So in total, that's 12. Then I started to imagine my hips as one big, thick circle. Originally, my hips are 42 inches wide, so that means if I was a circle, my diameter would be 42 inches long. That's a thick circle. And then on top of that, to add the 12 inches, it would be 54 inches in diameter. So I started to imagine my circle body as a pie or pizza or cake or whatever. In total, I have 8 panels, so that means 8 slices of pie, cake, or pizza. So divided my diameter length by 8. 54 divided by 8 is 6.75. So I'm thinking that the hips of each of these panels have to add up to 6.75. From there, I took my French ruler, I curved from my exact waist down to the extension on both sides, and then from the hip extension, I used a regular ruler and I brought it straight down to the hem. Now, after doing this repeatedly, I noticed the pattern that I was extending each side of each panel by either 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch, so you can definitely skip all this math and just do that. To make things easier on myself, I did trace all of my pattern pieces on my fabric, marking my waist and my hip line. It was just easier to make sure I got exact cutouts. With 3/4 of an inch seam allowance, I pinned and sewed all 8 of my panels together, not including the center back. When I did my try on, I realized that the dress was way too long, so I did fold it in to shorten it and fold in the top part because it was way too high. So, probably terrible view, but I folded in the hem of my inner fabric, my structure fabric, and the top part of it. I wanted it to be a lot shorter than what it is, so that's why I'm going to iron this so that it creases, and then I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to save this panel and then transfer it to my self fabric, but I'm going to just draw a line of where this is at on here and cut 1 inch below it because I need to have fold over for it to cover the edges of this. So the same thing I'm going to do with the top is just cut this out, place it on top of here. My freaking finger crotch is ashy. I'm gonna put it on top of here, just mark a line and cut 1 inch above it so that I can have fold over for the top. So right now I'm just gonna iron and then cut the crease, fold over the seam allowance and fold the seam allowance, sew it, and then put in my boning. When pressing my seams, I press the seams on the left towards the left and the seams on the right towards the right. The middle seam, however, was pressed open, and when sewing all the seams closed to create the boning channels, The center front middle seam had a 5/8 or 6/8 ribbon sewn onto it to create that boning channel. I figured this dress would need some more help staying up on my waist, so I did add a ribbon to act as a waist tape and sew that along the boning channel stitch lines and to the center back. All of my boning channels are in. I just sewed a ribbon down here, and then I did my waist tape and my boning channel. So now I'm just marking my hips line so I can go ahead and sew down with my sew-on boning along this line, going horizontally, going horizontally down going horizontally across the dress so that it can give more stability to this umbrella look. I'm going to do 3 chains of boning. So I'm going to do one at the hem, one in the middle, and then one here at the top. Well, in the middle. So like one here, and then one here. This one is hitting right at the hip line. So specifically, I definitely need one right at the hip line, because that's where a lot of my volume is coming from, or spurring out from, is from the hips. So I believe this boning is called Wriggling or Wriggling boning, but you can completely sew right through it. You don't need any casings or anything. So that is what I use. It's a lot easier for me to just use this because I can just sew right on top of it, like I said. And as you can see in the back, I'm catching up on Love is Blind, and the last season was very, very toxic. It was overly toxic. Keep in mind when you're sewing this, you're not sewing it right at the beginning. You have to start 1 inch behind the center back and finish 1 inch before the center back, because you still have to close up that center back seam. So just make sure and keep that in the back of your mind when you're sewing this. I finally caved in and hopped on the zip tie trend to use them for boning instead of buying actual boning, because boning can get quite expensive, especially for how much I needed for this dress. Like, I needed it to go from top to bottom, not just for the bodice area. So buying these zip ties from Home Depot, I think it was like a pack of like 20 or maybe like 30, and they're for like $13, I think. And I just cut the tops of them off so they could be curved instead of pointy, and puncture my fabric and slid them in each boning channel. Now, when I did sew the horizontal boning going across, I made sure I skipped over the boning channels so that I can slide these bonings into their vertical channels. So this part is pretty much self-explanatory. I am just ironing all of my panels for the actual fashion fabric, and I made sure I did the same thing. I traced it out on the paper so I can get the exact cutout, marked my hips, my waist, etc., and pin them together. The same seam allowance that I used for the inside structural layer I'm using for this, which is 3/4 of an inch, and I just sewed everything together. And it took quite a while again because it's 8 panels that I'm doing, so I sewed up everything besides the center back. I'm going to cut my self fabric now so it matches my inner structural layer. This is the exact measurement, but I'm going to cut 1 inch below that so I have extra fabric to fold over. This is the hem, so I'm going to cut this orange line right here all the way to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing for the top. Okay, so the zipper is attached, and now I had to do a wonky sewing. Oh yeah, so the zipper is attached. Did an invisible zipper, but I had to do this wonky stitch to add these boning in the side so that the center back could still be structured and stiffened. Next, all I did was just basically marked out the seam allowance for the center back. This is water soluble marker, so it'll come off. And what I'm gonna do now is just blind stitch it to the edge of the zipper to the center back, and then obviously
I think I'm gonna like hand stitch these closed because I can't run the top of this with the machine. I'm gonna hand stitch all of these boning channels closed because I want them to be secured and then no one boning to like slip out accidentally. So I think that's what I'm gonna do next, is just whip stitch these holes, these openings closed, so that the boning cannot even stick through. I might cut them just a tad bit shorter so that they are not sticking out. But we're nearing the end of this piece. There's another piece that is coming and I will show you. By the way, this is on here very much incorrectly. I just have it sitting on here because I didn't want to lay it down anywhere. So but it's coming together and it's looking so cute, you guys. I hope you can kind of like see the vision because it is on the mannequin very rarely. So
just as a disclaimer, I use an invisible zipper and I will never be doing that again with this type of fabric. This type of fabric is like a thick canvas fabric, and I don't know what possessed me to use an invisible zipper, but it just was not working. It took forever to zip this up, like when it was on me, but when it's off, it's a little easier. It's still crazy, but the whole point is to wear it. So it was just, I will never do this again. What I wish I would have done was use an actual jacket zipper, a metal zipper, so that, and then just have like a lap seam where it, like the red and white stripe fabric just covered the zipper. It just like, there was just a flap that covered the zipper. That's what I wish I would have done. Or I could have just done the same jacket zipper and went from the waist down to the hem and did like a lace up detailing from the top to the waist. But this was immediately a no. Do not do this if you're recreating this. Do not use an invisible zipper if you're going to use this denim canvasy duck cloth thick fabric. I don't know what I was thinking.
alright, so I have stitched the inside of this. No, I'm lying to you. I've stitched the zipper part of this, and it's gonna be pulling right here, which is really gonna get on my nerves. But there's nothing I can really do about that. I blind stitched it though. You can kind of like see the stitching if you look really closely. Now I have to blind stitch the inside of this, the top part all the way around and the bottom part all the way around. And this is how the inside of this looks. I do not have a lining. Am I going to put a lining? Absolutely not. But at least the bottom and top part are going to be clean finished. So
and now that the popcorn bucket is done, it's time for the popcorn. I use this yellow 100% cotton fabric with white polka dots from Hobby Lobby. Although popcorn is known to be covered in our artery's worst enemy, butter, there are still patches of white, which is why I opted for a yellow and white fabric instead of all yellow. But now it's time for the hard part, making the fabric resemble popcorn. I scoured the internet, Pinterest, YouTube, all the tiki-talkies, and nothing was perfect. Of course, I could have used the 90s popcorn shirt fabric manipulation, but to me it looked more like bottle pieces of trash paper rather than popcorn, so I settled for this technique. This technique is called flower smocking. To achieve this look, I had to dot out 1,000,000 squares 1 inch apart and sew into the 4 corners of the squares, bringing them to the center, then reinforcing that center closed. I did this for every other square, and you definitely should watch a video instead of just taking my word for it and watching it right here. Definitely do your research more so. This took forever, and I did mean to put brown beads in the middle. I just never got to it. I thought that the brown beads would represent like kernels in the popcorn. I just didn't get to it. You guys. It was so much work to the point where I was just like, you know what? I think this is enough, because I spent hours smocking this fabric. I think this took about like 2 days for me to smock, because it just took me a long time to just get one row done. And if you can see here, like I even had to go back and fix some of these because some of them did pop. This is finally done, and it took forever. This took forever. So I will never be doing that again. I need to make the structure top for that to be attached to. So I have a corset top, but I think I put it somewhere else. So I'm just gonna have to make a new one. I just need it like 2 inches under the boob. I don't need it really long. and I cannot use the popcorn bucket one because it's wider at the top here. All right, I still have a little bit of this fabric left. Should be enough to make the structured part of the top, and then I can just wrap it around this. So, but I'm deciding if I need lining or if I should just put the insides of this against the yellow. I'm going to see. Do I want to do my work? No. Do I want it to look nicely done? Yes. So we're gonna figure that out. But I'll let you know what I do after I cut this out and sew it together and see which way I want to go. Let's go. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's finally happening. You finally get to see the process of how I wrap myself in saran wrap and then duct tape to make my patterns. Right. This is all the duct tape that I have. So I'm going to be quite strategic and about how I use this. Okay, that's not good. That's not good. Okay, Sharpie. Oh my god, there's gonna be my Sharpie. Okay, so with my Sharpie, I mark all my style lines. You want to make sure you mark over your nipple, your side seam, your back, middle seam, and then your center back is just your center back. And make sure you mark your center back and your center front. And then I made sure I marked these lines right here so I know where they connect on each panel. And as you can see, the saran wrap and duct tape made like an entire mold of my bust area. I'm gonna cover that with a little piece of tape. For my space, just gonna pop a piece of tape right there. Smooth that out. So good. So after laying my pattern mold on the table, I took the Sharpie and I darkened the exact vertical panel lines that I was cutting out. And you should definitely do this before you take this off of your body, but mark your neckline and your hemline, which I didn't do before, so I had to do it now. Because this is also another render part, if I should make this a third piece right here. I did cut all the panels out before deciding to split that second one into 2 panels. Okay, so I decided to split this boob one into 2 because I felt like with the roundness that I was getting, or the volume or whatever, I wasn't gonna get that with the flat figure. So I decided to do this so that it can, when I do it on my flat fabric, that it will give that concave or convex shape around the boob area, especially since this right here is kind of curved. So hopefully that will work out the way that it needs to. So we have 5 pieces here, center front, center back. Let's cut this out the fabric and draw on the seam allowance because I'm not going to transfer this to paper. I just don't want to. Let's go. Alright, so all pieces were cut out twice except for my center front piece, which was just cut out on the fold. Once those are sewed together, I ironed the creases open. This is going to be considered my lining / structure layer. I did not add any boning to this. Okay, so I've combined my 2 panels that I had sewn, and I'm going to fit it now to this and cut off the excess. I am on the road and I decided I didn't want to go home, so I'm gonna hand stitch this in the car. This is the bodice. I didn't record myself sewing because I was just like in such a lock-in mode that I was just like, if I stop to record, I'm probably gonna go a lot slower than what I need to be, and it's gonna take up time to like position the camera and whatnot. So just know it was just the bodice, and I just wrapped around this fabric
around the bodice, and then just fold it over the back of this and the yellow an inch. And I'm just gonna fold over this twice, and I'm just gonna hand stitch everything. This bottom part though, however, I did bias binding because the bottom part wasn't long enough, so I decided to do a bias binding. Anyway, just gonna hand stitch that. Probably gonna take me like 2 hours, which is fine. I can just like listen to like an audiobook that I've been listening to and I haven't finished it. And oh my god, my nails just keep getting worse and worse.
As much as I claim that I love hand sewing, this project was killing my fingers. And imagine having to hand sew with these long nails that you're not really used to wearing. And I'm not done. I still have the other half of the top part and the side to do. But this is basically how that's going to look. Just go like this. And this is the top corner. Then I'll have the dress on, and then hopefully it'll give a vibe. The last thing I didn't show was me putting the grommets in because this was a lace up. We are finally at the end, and make sure you, incoming terrible joke, pop it for your girl by liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing to anybody you think that would love this video. Bye, you guys!